What's up, guys? I am Krystle Chats, and this is the Healthy Gossip. I also wanted to say, because this is episode 30, and in not one episode have I ever given a shout out to King Washington, which is the band that is the intro music of my podcast.
Oh.
And that song is called Land Without Age, if you guys were wondering at all. So shout out to George Craigs who gave me permission to use his song. I love it so much. You should listen. It's very beautiful. Alex, I think you'd like it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't-
Oh, I've heard it.
Okay.
I think Jay would like it.
Yeah?
Do you like it?
Yeah.
It's a great song, right?
Yeah.
He's so talented.
Talented man.
I mean, the band is talented, but George, yes. Him,
I mean, the band is pretty good. They carry him, but I'm kidding.
Oh, come on. You guys, I have a really awesome guest today.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes,
a
let's
nice way to start.
give a warm welcome to Mr. Jay Light.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, guys. Hi.
And of course, per usual as well. Sorry, I skipped you, Alex.
It's all right.
Alex
Per usual.
Khan, my co-host.
Yep.
Here at the Comedy Pop-Up.
Sup?
Sup, dude?
Do they have a camera on you
No.
somewhere?
No.
You're
he's
just in the
a-
shadows?
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah.
us?
It's just us.
Cool.
If you're watching the video, I like to liken myself to the voice of God, you know?
I call him my Oz. He's the Oz. of
Oh,
the
okay.
Gossip.
Man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Exactly. But he's definitely steps out. He's stepped out a couple of episodes. He's been on a couple.
I've sat at the table a few times. I've been a
Yeah.
big boy.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, yes, this is dropping December 3rd. Jay,
Yeah.
do you have anything you want to plug real fast?
December, I'm going to be doing some road dates in the South. I got to...
Texas?
No, I'm going to be in North Carolina.
Okay.
That's the for sure one. Probably Atlanta after that. North Carolina the 20th, Asheville at the Zoom Room. I'm headlining. I'm probably going to be in Atlanta the 21st, and to be determined on that, the rest of it.
So is this just tour, or is this like tour / like holiday stuff?
Just touring.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and kick it with my family in Dallas after that, but Christmas isn't a weird time of year this year, as in it's not on any sort of place where I can get up for a weekend. So I will be with my family middle of the week. Anyway, but all the dates are going to be at jlightcomedy.com, which is my website, so check that out.
Cool.
And my podcast, Blockbusting, which you should also check out.
Blockbusting.
Yeah, talk about the movies people hate and why they hate them.
Okay. Well, I could never be on that podcast.
You not watch movies, or you just not hate movies?
I don't watch them enough to have a valid opinion to hate them.
I've run into a handful of people who tell me that they just straight up don't watch movies.
I just feel like when people try to hate on things that they don't like know enough about, they just end up looking really dumb.
No, you got to have at
That's
least an
A
informed
good amount
opinion.
of self-awareness. Yeah. Yeah.
That's good.
Well, and
Because if I did your podcast, I'd shit on the Avengers, and I don't watch movies. I know nothing about comic books, but I'd make myself look like an idiot real fast.
Would you the original Avengers?
Yeah, dude, that one. I'd shit on all of them.
You're booked.
All right.
Let's set it up.
yes, I love it.
That's what networking looks like, baby. Hey.
Oh, yes. Fuck yeah, dude. I'm all for it too. Which I actually wanted to add this new segment to my podcast because so I don't listen to my podcast. I think I'm kind of like one of those artists with anything. I think a lot of the times I get uncomfortable. I don't like re-listening to my sets. I record almost all of them. I've probably listened to 10% of them.
The struggle.
Right. That podcast, I think maybe a couple, like in the very, very beginning, I listened to a couple from beginning to end just to like give myself some feedback. And so my new segment that I wanted to start is stupid shit I said in the last episode.
Okay.
So I'm literally going to listen to my podcast every time up until I think I said something stupid. This episode, I literally just recorded my last one, so I'm not going to do that episode yet because I have to listen to it. But the one before that, Alex, I was talking to you, and I go, did you learn anything in college?
I'm going to be honest. This is the best segment ever.
This is a great
I
idea
was
for
like,
a segment.
I don't know where this is going, but I love it.
I
Who
thank
did you ask that to? Who's
You.
the-
You.
Oh, you
Yeah,
asked me.
you.
Oh,
You
yeah.
were
I
like
didn't
a-
learn anything in college.
Right, but I when I first heard it, I was high as fuck, and I was like, oh, come on, like God, that's not what
This
I
is
meant.
a great
to
segment,
This
though.
may be the most self-aware podcast I've ever been on.
Thank
You have a
you.
good degree of like, oh, I know what's going on in my life.
That's
I
a
know there's
very
things
nice
I don't want to touch,
compliment.
and some things I will touch for the sake of comedy.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I will get to why I find that to be a nice compliment from you, but yeah, because I wasn't like trying to shit on college. It just kind of sounded like I was shitting on college, and then when you immediately said "fuck no," I thought it was just like, oh man, look at these stupid comments like shitting on education. Like, no, I've literally tried going back to college a few times because I do learn in college and I like it, and I even followed it up with. Yeah, I keep going back and I love it so much, and it's just whatever.
You're falling into their trap if you keep going back.
Well,
Let me guess. You're going to buy the books new, not used?
Mm.
I've
being
been
conned.
guilty of that a couple of times.
You know what you need? What's that? They sponsor a bunch of podcasts, that class-based learning.
Skillshare?
Yeah. Yeah, you need a Skillshare sponsorship.
Yeah.
Bad.
You know what? Yeah, get a Skillshare sponsorship, or at the
I'm
bare
gonna put it in my
minimum,
notes.
get a sponsorship from a company that buys back used college
Yeah.
books.
Yeah.
Get a Chegg sponsorship.
That's hilarious.
They're going to listen to this and go, yeah, a lot of college-educated people are tuning into this program. We got to strike while the
No.
iron's hot.
Dude, that's hilarious. A scholarship for comedians that we want to quit comedy to go back to college.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
Listen, when I get enough money, I'll help co-sign that.
Oh God.
Sign me up.
All right. So yeah, you're from Texas. You know, I'm from Texas.
You
right?
are?
Well, born in Austin. I'm a military kid. Born in Austin.
Oh, okay.
Spent a few years in Florida, and my
Gotcha.
family is now in San Antonio, New Braunfels.
Yeah,
and,
Schlitterbahn area.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Schlitterbahn.
I was a military kid too. My dad was a Navy.
Okay, but both of your parents are MDs.
No, my dad is just the only MD. My mom is a nurse, but she doesn't practice really
Did
anymore.
he pick that up in the Navy? Was that?
Yeah, he was. So he went to college and med school on, naval scholarship. I
Oh, okay.
guess
Smart.
is whatever
Smart.
whatever the right terminology for it is. And then he graduated, and then he did his residency in New Orleans. That's where he went to school down at Tulane.
Tulane.
Yep.
Beautiful.
His residency down there, met my mom, they got married, they had me, and then he was deployed on an aircraft carrier, so we moved to San Diego. That's where we were stationed. He did a couple tours on the Kitty Hawk, and he was in the Pacific for a bit. Kitty Hawk got sent out during the Gulf War, so he was out in the war zone for a little bit. He was working as a flight surgeon on that aircraft carrier, and then he got put in the reserves, and we moved to San Antonio. And then he started doing private practice, and we moved up to the suburbs of Dallas.
Nice.
Okay.
What
Yeah.
suburb?
Colleyville.
Colleyville. Is that north? You said up. Is it like north of Dallas?
It is in between Dallas and Fort Worth.
Okay, nice.
So it's like right by Arlington and
All
Six
right.
Flags and all that
Nice.
stuff. Yeah.
Very cool.
How many years ago did you move to LA?
7 years.
Okay, straight to West Hollywood.
No, I started out very close to East Hollywood. I was on the 101, right off the 101 at Melrose in Normandy.
Oh yeah.
And I lived
Wow,
in
you
a
and I are
condemned
opposite.
house.
I started in Westwood, and then
You
you, and
lived
I
in-
like.
Oh,
lived
you
in
know
a
what
what
house?
house?
Yeah, a condemned house.
Oh.
What the hell
yeah,
is that?
a house
Condemned.
that
It means
you're
you're
not
not
supposed to
legally
live
allowed
in
to be
there.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We basically, the guy who owned the house, he was trying to flip it, but he couldn't afford to flip it at the time. So he was like, "You guys can stay here for
And-
super cheap,"
Until he sells it.
until he had enough money to remodel.
Okay.
So
If
we
it's
were in there.
condemned, no one can go in the building until structural issues are figured out. So they essentially got to rent.
Wow.
They got like you had the Haitian treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were living in some like Red Cross non-certified housing.
Who
Like we had to
is-
sign waivers. There was asbestos and lead paint.
Who is?
Ooh,
who
what
is-
was the rent?
Who is we?
Me and a bunch of friends of mine that I went when I was in college. I interned at the Cannes Film Festival, so there was a bunch of friends of
Wow.
mine from that.
Oh,
We all
sick.
moved out to LA at the
What
same time.
college?
Elon University,
Then you got your bachelor's.
Mhm.
Okay.
BA in Media Arts and Entertainment.
Oh, good for you.
Beautiful.
Good
Yeah.
for you.
It's worked out.
Yeah. 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 I mean,
None of the ways that I thought it was going to,
But still.
but it worked out. Yeah, we had to do. There's black mold that showed up. Our room, My roommates made a very dumb decision at one point. I lived with 6 people.
Wait, had you, and right quick, had you already tried comedy before you moved here?
Yeah, I was doing comedy. First time I ever got on stage, I was 18 to do stand-up specifically. I didn't really start actually giving a shit about it until I was 20. So
I figured it was the mold that got to your brain when you were living in that house.
Nah, that mold made me do. I got one of the non-mold rooms. Thank
Ooh.
God.
No.
Non-mold,
extra?
no bed bugs.
I've heard some scary stories about.
I just lucked out. I was the second person to show up to the house when we moved in, so I got my pick of rooms, and I chose the nicest room.
How long did that last? It sounds
The house condemned. We lived there like
Hashtag
6 months, I think.
okay.
The
Yeah.
house condemned. Is this a political podcast now?
Right.
No, that's insane. What was your rent for the whole place? For the house?
Total? Oh man, not
It's
much.
about 70.
There were. I mean, I was paying like $350 or $400, and there were
Jeez.
6 or 7 of us.
God.
It was still $2,000 a month.
I mean, it was a big
Jesus
house.
Christ.
It was a big house.
Yeah, but it wasn't 100%.
Yeah, it
Not
was
all of the
6
square
years
feet
ago.
were occupiable though.
Yeah, that's true. But they were occupied
Like,
anyway.
This
I-
is
I
Like,
was-
just
2,500.
because it wasn't safe to live there doesn't mean we
I
didn't
was
live
spending
there.
like $900 to live by UCLA in Westwood. I mean, I had 4 roommates, but it was in Westwood, you know?
Damn.
It's
Well,
fancy.
That
Did
900
you
was
guys
your
have mold?
No.
was
it
900 total rent or just for your share?
My share.
Oh, okay. See, yeah.
But yours was 700.
No, 350 or 400.
Oh, I thought you said 7. Okay.
No,
I wasn't
no,
listening
no.
to you. Oh, 4.
7
okay.
people, 300.
Yeah,
400
but 7.
apiece,
But you
yeah.
got your own room.
Yep.
Okay, but still, and you all had your own room. That sounds like a ridiculously massive.
We
house.
lived with a couple, so they shared a room, but everybody else had
Okay.
their own room. No, wait.
Okay.
I think one other dude shared a room with one of the other roommates.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you're living it up in West Hollywood.
Yep, been there for-
Congratulations.
thank you, for
Me
4
too.
years.
Even
That's
though
the way to do it.
technically I'm like literally a street off. I can't go to the West Hollywood City Hall when I need to handle my business, but
Do you have to go to City Hall to handle your business often?
to get a parking permit.
Oh, yeah. You got to go to the dumb Westwood
LA
one.
exactly.
Yep. I hated that. I hated going to that
That
parking
was
office.
that was my one reality check when I was like trying to flex and going up in the West Hollywood City Hall, and they were like, "You don't live in West Hollywood," and I'm like, "I live a mile away."
Yeah.
And yeah, that was.
That's basically what I've lived my entire time in quote unquote West Hollywood, but I've always been like a block away.
Right.
Yeah. You can
We
the
don't
street
give a
signs
fuck.
change.
Cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So okay,
More
so now
homeless encampments.
Yeah.
can you
Bringing
explain
the old property value down.
Mm-hmm.
Stinking up
explain
the
to the
place.
listeners what your involvement with the roast battle is?
Oh man, so the roast battle, I was very involved in it for a long time. It was I got in basically on the ground floor. I remember I was doing it when it was still an open mic. I started hanging out at the store. This is about a year and change after being in LA. So I was there for a bit. Started hanging out. It was an open mic. I started getting interested
I never knew
in
that, by the
battling.
way. That's cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was an open mic, and it used to be super inside jokes the whole time. Everybody was because you would do the open mic for an hour, and then the battle would happen at the end of the mic, and it would be like one battle, those 3 rounds, and nobody would show up judges wise, and then Rel Battle was bringing up judges, and then all of a sudden it just became like this crazy thing.
Sick.
It became a real show, and I was taking pictures, and I was doing live streaming for it
Oh, nice.
because we just needed, Moses wanted to document it somehow. And so I started doing that. And then I started battling a fair bit and producing the show. And then I worked my way up to being on the Comedy Central version of it for a couple seasons as a performer. I wrote for the 3rd season of it. And then I was booking and producing the show for about like 2 years.
Okay.
And
Did you
yeah.
do like Road to Roast Battle, or were you on like the Roast Battle show?
First season was Road to Roast Battle.
to Roast
First
Battle.
season I was in the Austin
Nice.
area, I guess,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it.
New
Not
Braunfels.
prelim.
It's very loose.
Yeah, we battled on Schlitterbahn. That was what happened to the loser. You had to ride that water slide that decapitates you. You gotta get verruched. Then second season, I did the Denver prelim, the Denver Road to show, and then I was on the final.
Was that the
battle for that?
Was that the one with Sam and Justine? Was that the?
Yeah.
God.
Oh God.
I worked at the Comedy Works for a while. That's like
That was
that's
one of my all-time. Sam's joke about
the closer, the
miscarriage
in a hot tub.
It's genius. It's still like one of my top 5 all-time favorite roast battle jokes.
Yeah.
Shout out Sam
It's a
Talent.
bloodbath. Yeah.
And another thing or two about bloodbaths.
Yeah.
Justine had a miscarriage in a hot tub.
Yeah.
And then
the best.
I battled Carlos Miller that night, and
Oh.
Carlos basically did not know what he was in for. I think with the show, he didn't prepare
Oh no.
and watch anything of the show, and it did not end so well. And Carlos stormed out of the club and never came back.
There was
Oh,
there was
no.
It was rough.
somebody there was somebody I remember on I think the same episode as Denver. Was it Atlanta on that episode?
Yeah, Denver and Atlanta.
So there was somebody on that in Atlanta who didn't go well, and they kind of broke down on screen a little. I don't know.
It was Shaun White and Megan Gailey.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Sean? Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, it was because Shaun was on the
that
one
was long
before.
before I lived in LA, so I didn't.
Yeah, Shaun didn't move. He
Yeah, I mean he's new
was
here
still
too,
living
but-
in Chicago at the time, I
Uh-huh.
think, and he did great on the Chicago Road to Roast battle from the season before. And then I think he just got too drunk and unraveled, but it happens.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Yeah.
drunk, you're sober?
Yep,
Like-
4 years.
Oh, congratulations.
100%.
Okay.
Caffeine.
Was there a
that's all I
problem,
got.
or did you just say
4
like,
years means there was a problem.
I think the problem was getting worse,
Mhm.
and so I stopped it before it got really bad. But it was starting to feel worse and worse and worse, and I was doing
Okay.
more and more stuff that I felt bad about and that I was embarrassed about, and I was like, "This is starting to get out of control. I got to do something about
got
this."
loose, got to tighten it up?
Yep.
I like
So
your
I
style.
tightened it up and haven't looked back.
Okay. I talk a lot about sobriety on this show, and I'm not sober.
Mhm.
And I the self-awareness thing. One of my trolls always like, yeah, she's an open mic alcoholic comic trying to talk about health and relationships. And I'm just like, fuck you. I'm self-aware, bro. You fucking hater.
Yeah.
I know I have a problem. I just haven't fixed it yet. I had a
That's the first step. You've completed the first step, Krystle.
Yeah.
sure. So do you still go to meetings?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good.
Not as many as I used to when I was like brand new early sobriety, but I
Right.
go to regularly to one a week pretty much.
Do you still have a commitment?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Okay. How many sponsees do you have?
Just one at the moment. I
Okay.
keep
At
losing
least you-
I keep losing spots.
At least you have one. You know,
Yeah.
I heard that's a big part of keeping it.
Yeah, that's the next thing I got to find is another sponsee. So
My
newly sober people, if you're looking,
I love
slide into the DMs.
I had a situation like my Kill Tony shit was like really rough because I, similar to what you had just said about the roasting, don't really watch Kill Tony. You know, didn't really, and I kind of got what it was because I remember I was in Orange County.
Right.
And all of the Orange County comedians always would talk about it, and they'd be like, "Oh, we're going to Kill Tony. We're going to Kill Tony." So I kind of like put it on like YouTube a few times. I'm like, "Okay, I get it. You do a minute." So it was the Monday, and I was just I was beyond
You're just
wasted.
trashed.
That and CrossFit because I was high too, and I was like,
Oh,
"It's
boy.
a minute. It's a minute." I was like, "Ah." And the thing is in my head, I was like, okay, I already knew my 1 minute bit I was going to do. But for some reason, I wanted to start with the opener and then, for the 1 minute thing, I was like, let's do an opener to the 1 minute set. Yeah, that doesn't add up, by the way. Just wanted to let you know. And then they called my name, and I forgot what the opening thing was. And I was like, do I have it? Went up and they're fucked up. Then this is
Was
literally
this-
the most polished piece of material that I have, and I fucked it up while I was up there. And then I was just like, "Brr." And then of course, but the great thing is though, they were like literally roasting my entire existence. And he
Uh-huh.
even called me out. He was like, "Are you on like pills or something right now?" But the one thing that they did tell me is they're like, you have a really good attitude about this. Cause like they were just literally destroying me, and I was just like the whole time
I mean, that's
laughing.
good.
Right.
That's the beauty of like. Were you doing it in the main room?
Uh-huh.
All right. So
Yeah.
I remember when Kill Tony was going on in the belly room still.
Okay.
That was back when I did it a few times back in the belly room days.
Mhm.
And I had to follow somebody one time who was so bad, but also refused to acknowledge that
Oh,
the
no.
panel was trying to help him and offer, like, in between the roasting, like, valid suggestions about, like, the material being bad, and he freaked out and tried to, like, play it off as a bit, but you could tell there was something actually going on there, and he was
no.
upset, and he stormed out the back door of the belly room, and they shut the door behind him. Then I had to follow that, so it was like, I would much rather follow somebody who, like, if they bomb, they at least are having a good time and they can take the jokes.
Yeah, no,
That's
I
how it's
literally,
better for roast battle too.
exactly. For me, I think that's another thing about comedy in general. I think one really cool stepping stone of comedy is, like, if you bomb, you can go back and listen and know exactly why. It's either you didn't win the room, wrong crowd, et cetera. Like, and you can be like, all right, I know what happened, and that's when you kind of just get comfortable going back and being like, I fucked up. Same thing with Kill Tony for me is, like, I already knew where I lost everything. So I, as a comic, and that was another thing they called me out because, again, I didn't watch the show, and then I'm like, they don't know who I am. And they're like, how long have you been doing comedy? I was all, a few months. And then all of them, they're like, why would you lie about that? And I was like, well, technically, did my first mic like 10 years ago. So I'm not going to say fucking 10 years. And I just restarted like a year and some change ago. I was like, so he doesn't fucking know who I am. It was so bad. And they're like, why'd you lie? And I was like, because I looked like I had only been doing it for a few months. So fuck you. Sorry.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And really, I don't know because I just started again, like a year and some change. I did the LA scene maybe for a year, if that, and not even like consistently. It, like, slotted mic saved my life when it came to comedy, because I wouldn't probably even still be doing comedy now because I don't have it in me to go just hang for 4 hours to do 3 minutes 5 nights a week. I just can't. I can't. Like, and that's honestly what I feel like comedy used to be. It was just hanging out at a place for a couple of hours, 3 hours. Like, Anchor Bar was kind of like that before.
Yeah.
Just you're waiting, and then you get your 3 minutes, and then it's like, so that's why I really enjoy and people hate slotted mics. I'm obsessed with them. I think they're perfect.
I think there's a little bit of a necessary evil quality to them. I think what I think has happened is the scene was so far in that opposite direction where it was like all lottery mics and all waiting around for hours. And then now we're in the harsh, like, opposite end of the spectrum where people are. It seems like there's 5 new slotted mics that are opening up every week, and it's the same business model.
That's okay. It's McDonald's. It's all right. Like, it'll die out, and then the survivors will survive.
I think there's going to be a happy medium somewhere.
Yeah.
Because I am constantly hearing people complain about having to pay $5 to do 5 minutes, and I don't think it's the worst thing in the world.
Stupid.
Well, I think there's.
No,
I think there's a chance. I think
stupid.
we need more free mics to come back. I think there's got to be a way to get that system to not be so shitty. But I also think if you want to get on stage and then you're going to actively avoid paying $5 to get on stage. Right. Then you're doing yourself a disservice. Well, I think there's a happy medium.
Old school comics, I feel, used to feel like if you were able to hack it, well, that was your rite of passage to actually success. Like, you did the grind, and so that's why I agree with you on the happy medium, because it's the same thing as people are, oh, I hate people are always on social media. Social media, it's like, well, it's just the times, So obviously, no, I don't think it should just be slotted mics. But then again, I also know how important it is to where if you go to the Comedy Store to do well, or the Improv, like, you want to do well. You don't want to just go work your shit out on those stages. You want a place like Burt's or Fourth Wall to literally, if you need to hold your phone, your notes, or whatever, and just fuck off because you paid the $5. And then to me, when it comes to those other, like, successful mics where it's lottery, at the end of the day, you're still running it as a business. Like, you still need people to buy drinks if you want an audience. Like, maybe not the comics to spend the money, but there needs to be some sort of revenue.
Comics have to spend money because if we start expecting people to pay for the quality they're getting at open mics, our whole business will be doomed. If we start asking human beings for money at Sycamore Tavern to watch us learn and grow,
right,
our whole model will fall apart. I think there are way too many slotted. Like, I don't know. Where are you from? I'm trying to think of, like we don't have one of those cool mics that, like, everyone hangs out at. Like for us,
I
those
had
mics-
that mic. My
Well-
K squared,
well, hold
our
on.
K squared mic
I liked your mic.
in Long Beach before we started charging was that. Everyone loved it.
I
They hung
think-
out outside. There was locals that would come in and watch. And then as soon as we started charging, it fell apart.
But I see where you're coming from, Alex. So the downside to LA is that it's LA, and the places where it's a hang are places like the Improv
High
or the
risk,
store.
very high
and
risk.
so yeah, so you're hanging out, but you also it's like a club, so you're trying to showcase, you're trying to get booked by the booker, you're trying to advance through whatever development system they may have. There's no place like I was just down in Houston, and they have this place called Rudyard's. That's like the mic. It's Monday nights. Everybody in the Houston scene goes to that mic. Everybody, because it's been running for several years, and it's a good spot. And sometimes real people are there. There's a good chunk of real people who are there, but it's a mic, and everybody gets 5 minutes. But LA doesn't really have that. There's a couple places that are like that. But since LA is such a huge scene, it's all spread out. Like I run a mic on Thursdays at Hyperion Tavern. We get a pretty decent, like, regular crop of people who show up. People who
How much time do they get?
3 or 4, depending on how many people show up. I like to say ours is like a club style open mic on the east side because it's a room on the east side, but it's not an east side room. Like you can get away with doing stuff that you would do that you're not going to do at Lyric Hyperion at our mic.
I'll come.
Come by. Come by.
I would like to party on the east side.
Raffle?
Yeah.
We do a lottery up front. We do the drawing right at the very beginning.
Okay.
And it's free. And if you buy a drink, then you get into the bar bucket, and we could draw you out earlier.
Okay, nice.
But it's not a requirement. And we keep that model going because the only reason we started having the bar thing at all is because the owners of the bar were like, you can't open the bar this early and not be making any money.
Yeah.
And the bartender was like, well, I don't want to charge people to do a spot. And we were like, we'll figure out something.
That's really nice.
And so we did.
Okay.
But there's not a lot of places like that anymore. There used to be, but now everything's changed because you go in for your hour and then you take off.
Well, and I feel like you lose a little bit of like the religion to it. You know, like you got to pay. You have to put money in the plate sometimes. You have to feed this industry because this industry will fall apart without. Like we're more invested in this than anyone. But
well, it's just like our dance classes. Like if you're a dancer and you want to get good, you got to pay money to go to a dance studio. An acting class, I took acting classes. You know, and like okay, so you don't have to take a comedy class, but you do need to practice. And you just want to practice for free all the time.
Yeah.
You know, you got to invest a little bit.
Like when I do mics, if I'm not doing a Burt's or a Fourth Wall or something, I'll go to like the Pack, or I used to go to Next Stage a lot. I loved Next Stage, and I would chip in. You know, I'll throw in a couple bucks, and you get a bottle of water for it at least. And then I feel like it's a transaction that's not just me paying for the stage time either. I think that's the switch I think that needs to flip in the way that slotted
one item
mics get
minimum
run.
kind of thing.
What's it?
Yeah, like you get a get a bottle of water. There's a place in Santa Ana that does that, where you pay $5 for a slotted spot, but you also you can get a cup of coffee, you can get a bottle of water.
What
they got
place?
sodas. The Green Room.
Okay.
It's right next to where they do Chapter 1 on Mondays.
Okay, cool.
But it's
Nice.
great. I think that the more
I love it down there. I've
Yeah.
just started venturing down there. I ran
Orange
into
County's
you.
the best.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love it down there. Yeah.
it's great.
Also, the free one. What's that one on the west side that's at that comedy school? Like right before you get to the 405? I've only been once, but I remember you just reminded me of that. It was actually really good because it was in a comedy. Literally, God, is it called the comedy?
This is the LA School of Comedy?
Yeah, yeah. Have you been
I've
to
never
it?
been there. I've driven past it.
It's actually really great.
Is that the one down by the mall, like way down Santa Monica?
Right
or
by
something?
the
It's in Westwood, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's right by that Buffalo,
church.
the church, and then
Yes.
there's the Fat Burger with the wing shop in the same
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And there was parking. You
Yeah.
just go in. It's like a classroom setting, like it's a school, and you just go in. It was a great room, and you go out. I forgot. I need to go back to that, Mike. Okay. So
Okay, go ahead.
you can go ahead. One more thing.
I was just gonna say I kind of miss, or I think LA desperately needs that mic where everyone hangs out. You know, Chicago has it, Denver has it, Vegas has it. All these scenes have a mic where it's like you put on, it's your Sunday best mic. It's where you go to see people and be seen and be a part of this thing. And I kind of miss that because I think the club mics you get, you lose that. But
When I was in North Carolina, we had that. That was Jack Spratt. We had, and LA used to have a handful of mics that were like that.
Yeah.
But now it's the vibe of the scene has changed. the
That it
vibe
has,
the vibe of the
yeah.
grind has changed.
Okay. So
Let's stop paying people's rent. Let's pay people's emotional rent. How about
Okay.
that? Friendship.
All right.
Let's make that happen.
All right. Well, we
Sure.
don't all get to live in a condemned house, Jay. Some of us have rent to pay. I live in my car, but some of us have rent to pay, Jay.
No, that's what I'm saying. Don't pay those $5. Let's pay for like building a better scene.
so
Man,
I really
Pay with your time.
I
Yeah,
really-
exactly.
Or how about this? Fucking pay attention.
Paul's here.
Yes.
Alex, Paul's here. You want me to let him in?
No.
Pay attention,
Okay.
and then and also don't mandate to be supportive.
So I had a really good. I had a really good time watching your cooking segment on Instagram. the
Oh,
other day.
Cooking with Jay.
Is that a normal thing that you do?
I used to do those a lot back at the old place I lived at. I haven't done
Come
them
on
in a
in. Do you
while.
want to come over here, Paul? Yeah.
up, Paul?
You know I'm not weird about that shit.
How are you,
Get-
dude?
Get your ass in here. Say hi to our
Long
listeners.
time.
What's up, Paul
Good to see you,
Antonio,
buddy.
guys? Paul Antonio, everybody. Hey, you want to say hi? Oh, okay.
He's got a shirt in Spanish.
My shirt's in Spanish?
Yeah, it says adios, amigos.
Oh yeah. That's technically Spanish. What's up, everybody? Listen to my show, The Paul Antonio Show.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have
With
these
all
two
kinds
as
of
guests.
networks,
I haven't told
plugs.
them yet, but they're guests.
When's your
Yay.
Yeah.
In an
Yeah.
hour, you're both staying.
Can't wait.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. So it's cooking. Was it good though? Cause like
Yeah. Oh,
Your
that
grits?
sauce. The sauce wound up producing the perfect amount. It wasn't too bad. It was nice. It had good richness to it, and the grits were great.
was that a vegetarian meal? Cause there you don't use
yeah.
dairy, right? There was no meat.
No meat.
Okay.
Used some butter.
Okay.
So definitely vegetarian. I'm trying to be
And
more
have you- and-
vegetarian
and
lately.
Have you cooked that before?
No, not that specifically. I've cooked
Okay.
grits. I've never cooked the stone ground grits, which take a little bit more finesse and time. It's like
Because I remember when you said let's see how this tastes,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know if it was a like let's see if this batch or let's see because this is the first time.
yeah,
But
no.
it looked really good.
First time, it tasted really good.
Okay,
It was
good.
nice.
I'm happy for you.
I was working on cooking shows this year, so I picked up a couple more cooking techniques.
Oh,
So I learned how to chiffonade
interesting.
those herbs.
Okay. So, yeah, the first time I saw you perform was do you remember this? Do you remember the first time that you met me?
I remember it was in
Pop
Orange
quiz.
County.
Orange
Amazing
County.
Comedy Theater?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you were so I'm the comic that brought that Bumble date.
That's right.
Yeah,
Oh my
that-
god.
And that's the first time I saw Jay Light. Yeah.
That was oh my god.
Do you remember?
That was a fun set.
Were you here for this story?
I've heard the story, yeah.
Yeah.
This turned
yeah.
into the sociopath, didn't it?
No.
Oh, then I don't know this.
Basically, we're booked on a show and for Amazing Comedy Theater, and this guy on Bumble was like, "Oh, hey, I saw your comedy picture.
Mm-hmm.
When's your next set?" And I was like, "An hour." And he's like, "Oh, where?" And he's like, "I'll go." He's like, I think he said something like, "You like, how do I get a ticket?" And I was like, "Just come."
Show up, and he
Just
was the only audience
The
member.
only one. And I told him that. I was like, "Hey, I just want to let you know there's a huge chance you might be the only one."
Yeah.
And when he showed up, he's like, "There's no way in hell I thought that was possible." And I was like, "You don't know comedy."
Yeah.
And then so Jay was just like, he walks up and he kind of like almost like has a seat with him. He's like, "Do you mind if I just talk to you, buddy?" And and
Because there was nobody. He was sitting. You guys were sitting in like the very beginning of the darkness of the room.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one in the front row, so I'm just like, I gotta at least be here for this.
No, but this was so fantastic because I did not know the guy, and Jay was basically drilling him on his life. He's like, "So what do you do, man?" And the guy was like kind of weird because the guy knew I didn't know what he did. I didn't, he didn't have that on his profile. I literally just met the guy, and he found out that he was like a psychologist, and that's how I found out your parents were doctors. And this is great.
yeah.
I'm getting to know these two guys all at once, and la la la. And then finally, like I get up there, and I'm like, "Yeah, give it up for my Bumble date." The whole show, everyone was just talking on this guy. So I'm sure it was
He was the only person.
the only
The only
Well,
person.
then they had no clue or no choice but to talk to him.
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. So that was why it was kind of fun because he literally it had to have been the most memorable
How'd your set
first
go?
date. It was pretty solid. My great joke that night was all I said was I was an ugly duckling, and when I was a little girl I looked like Cameron Peloso, and because right
Because he had done a spot that night. I think.
Well, the fact that everybody in the room knew who he was, I knew it would get a huge laugh, and I was trying to show off, obviously,
I'm gonna
for
be
the
honest,
date.
I don't know who that is.
No. And I obviously wouldn't have said it if I didn't know that every single person in the room knew who he was.
Oh, is he like an OC comic? Or?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Every single person knew who he was in that room,
Yeah.
except for my date, and that's why it was just great. So it was good. It was solid. Like, it was what I wanted it to be for having
For a first
one
date.
in the room. Exactly. Jay, are you single or you have a girlfriend?
No, I have a girlfriend.
How long?
2.5 years.
Oh yeah, I didn't give you my rules before. We don't really mention names too much on the podcast, so I don't like ask anything like that. And I've actually never said this on the podcast, so I always tell my people, like, if I ever say anything that makes them uncomfortable, I give them an out. You just kind of give me a little winky, and then I change the subject. So yeah. Anyways, how long? 2 years.
2.5 years.
2.5. Oh, look who's keeping track.
It's mostly her. Oh boy.
Oh, remind me. It's been 2.5 years, babe.
There's I was just listening back to sets that I was doing from like September and October, and I was like, saying 2 years, and I'm like, oh, I was definitely wrong at that time. But we also dated non-exclusively for a couple months beforehand, so the timelines in my head are messed up. Yeah, that's how you do.
You guys don't have a date, like anniversary date?
It's sometime in July. I don't remember off the top of my head.
What is she? Like, does she do ethnicity? Is she a comic?
White girl, not a comic. Dated enough comics. I've had my fill of that.
Is the sex better with comedians?
No.
Okay, worse.
They're all narcissists. They get
Exactly.
off and they go.
They're
It's
all
all about them, huh?
All narcissists.
I wouldn't know. I'm just kidding.
The
Like,
relation.
no applause break? Really?
I practiced this. I went to Burt's. I paid my $5 to try out these new moves. I think she's great for me. Because she's a writer, so she understands the creative lifestyle and the need for me to like go and focus on doing my craft without the also need of like, I'm gonna follow you to open mics and we're gonna do these spots together, kind of thing. So it's good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So you're gonna propose to her or what?
Man, you're like the fourth person who's asked me that in a month.
Can I ask you how old you are?
29.
29? Okay.
Nah, don't.
Nah, honestly, sorry, girl.
Hey, when are you gonna break up with her? That's what I'm asking.
Because you're a young comic. Like, for a dude, like, I mean, that's young as fuck. Like,
29?
I'm sorry.
Especially for a white dude?
Well,
woof, we got a long road ahead of us, folks.
I mean,
Yeah.
well, first of all, like,
That's what good healthcare does. You're gonna live for a while.
Well, I gotta get on. I just got into the. I have to buy my own healthcare tax bracket. So leveling up. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because, like, you know, I buy into the 30s as a new 20s thing, especially if you're doing something creative. It's not, you know, you're not a doctor where it's like, great, I'm going to be done by this point, maybe a year or two off, and then you know, I'll get this career. So I don't know. We're chilling and we're just figuring it out, and it's art.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, we're basic. She and I are in the same boat.
You wish there was
We're just on
timeline.
different sides of things. You know, I've got.
Where does she live?
We live together.
Oh, that's where you messed up, girl. I'm sorry. I just wanted to let you know.
This is the first girl I've lived with that
the quote by my mom: "Why buy the cow if you get the milk for free?" That's all I got.
This is the first girl I lived with
Stop giving away that milk.
in a
bitch.
long time. I've
Okay.
dated a handful of girls and
A long
haven't lived with any
time.
of them.
29. Oh, back in the day when I was 22 and I lived with a girl.
Yeah, I mean that's a long time ago.
Yeah, but you were a kid. Like, does that even count?
I mean,
I feel like this is her, she. I don't even. I've never seen her. I don't know who you are, girl. If you're listening, if she listens to this stuff, but I don't like, you know, I don't know what her story is, but I think that she's your first real thing. Because when I was young, like 20s, like if I lived with a dude, I knew it was gonna end. I don't know what you guys thought when you were that age living with people, but it was like, this is ridiculous. I was still a child. You didn't think you were still a child back then?
Not at the time.
Hindsight being 2020 though.
No, not at the time. I mean,
Okay.
hindsight, of course, I was fucking up.
I'm
and
really
didn't know
mature.
anything.
Yeah. Okay.
I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot. This is definitely the most adult relationship I've ever been in.
That's exactly the point.
It's the kind of thing where it's like we could get married. Who knows? We're not really even thinking about that right now. We're like, we're gonna see where the rest of we got to get some career shit figured out before we lock any of that down.
Okay.
You got to
that's
get
as far as I can
successful
tell.
before I keep you forever.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
Figure out whose coattails we have to
Yeah.
ride.
Let's establish the breadwinner, and then we can pick. We could decide on the house rules.
Exactly.
And then we're good.
Yeah. Yep. Spot on.
Yep.
Alex hit the nail on the head.
So if you both never make a certain amount of money, then you're just gonna be like the status quo is gonna be the status quo forever.
Yep. We'll just
Okay.
we'll
Will
just
the
slum
quid
it.
pro quo be the quid pro quo or just the status quo?
Will bribery be involved in the equation? We're gonna throw that in there too.
She has to buy her own ring.
She's got to build her own ring.
I mean, right now I'm the breadwinner, so if anybody's buying a ring, it's probably gonna be me.
Hot new tax bracket popping off. Breadwinner
Yeah, baby.
ass.
Say goodbye to Medi-Cal. Say hello to Covered California.
Kaiser Permanente. Okay.
I love
Or
Kaiser.
Oscar. We'll see. I don't know.
Kaiser was awesome when I had it. Shout out to Kaiser.
Shout out to Kaiser. They gave me free healthcare after I had a stroke. So
Nice.
Shout out to
Wow.
Kaiser.
Shout out Kaiser. Yeah, my girlfriend had she's a Cedars gal at the
Ooh.
moment. She had a cat that scratched her face and like cut her under her lip very badly because it was a cat claw. They were triangular shaped, and she went to a plastic surgeon at Cedars and fixed it up real nice.
Boom.
So she's Cedars ride or die.
All right, nice.
Wow. And she pays for that out of pocket? Like she can afford a PPO, and you're making more money than her.
Well, she also
and
had-
Yikes! You guys are rich.
What's a PPO?
She had a job where she was making more money than me for a bit,
Okay.
but then
she kept the insurance.
yeah.
Okay.
But we also have shifted. Like when we were first started dating, I was still working as a doorman at the Comedy Store,
Okay.
and she had just sold a movie, and she was working as the showrunner's assistant for like a show that was popping off. So she was in the clear, and I was like slumming it and figuring the shit out. But then now I've been like, I had writing jobs this year and things have been good. And she has been trying to figure out her next move because the show didn't wind up going. So she has to figure out what to do next. So we've got a little bit of a power shift.
do you guys have a joint bank account?
It's time
No.
for
Okay.
Of course not.
it's time for threesomes.
That would be bad idea to have a joint bank account when
Why?
we're not married.
Well, I've heard some people have like a joint, but like you still have your own separate. But like for example, if you guys pay rent together, you guys can deposit it into the account. If you're ever on the road and you need
Crystal's
to,
losing
I
her
don't
mind.
know.
Crystal doesn't know about Venmo.
No,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't.
We just
I don't
pay. We just
freaking
write
know.
2 checks from our own accounts.
I don't know how it works. Okay. And and I've never had a joint bank account with a guy, so I just thought it's weird.
Hey, Crystal, if you
What?
want a joint bank account,
You gotta get married.
you open that bad boy up. I'll put my name on it. Let's do it.
There you go. Alex Con benefactor over here. I like that.
I'm a dependent. That's that's my goal. What do you want to be when you grow up? A dependent.
So I feel that because this is going to be released on Monday, I'm already going to talk about my private life because I've been having this. Do you know anything about my podcast?
No.
So just a quick background. I started it. I was completely single, and then I got on the dating apps. I had a crush on a comic, and the whole thing was supposed to be about not being afraid of transparency, and then also being transparent.
We are the Obama of podcasts. We're like we ran on transparency, but we're murdering whistleblowers. And I'm sorry.
No, that is the perfect analogy because I have so many secrets.
Listen, Obama didn't murder whistleblowers. He just did drone strikes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Get your
Yeah.
Democratic candidates right.
Oh, okay, my bad.
And I got people sending some drones out. So, yeah, and like so basically what happened was I was like, yeah, let's talk about it. And the healthy part is actually like a healthy part too. I like talking about healthy foods and
Okay.
exercising and all that and other stuff, but relationships and dating and etc. And then so I dated a guy who ended up. He lied at first. He said, "Oh, I'm super on board with what you're doing. That's cool. Like that's cool that you talk about your personal life, whatever." And literally 180 immediately, just
Ooh, boy.
right. And then
Yikes.
so the whole dynamic of my podcast got weird, where it was just like you could literally watch and see that I'm like trying not to say something about whatever, and it was just weird. But now I kind of like had like a rebirth where I'm just like. because the guy kept messaging me thinking that because of the no names thing, I guess he was getting confused. And sometimes, again, stupid shit that Krystle says in the last episode, he thought I was talking about him, and I lost my mind. And I was like, I'm gonna fucking talk about you, bro. You know what? Fuck you. I'm gonna talk about, I was like, because I literally had every single episode, I was like shaking, worried this guy was gonna be like, I said, please, like it's gonna jeopardize everything. And now I'm just like, fuck you. I have 10 listeners, bro. Like, get over yourself. You know, like I don't know who you think I am, but it's not Chelsea Handler. And it was just really annoying. So you know the last person that I was dating, and I actually had him on this episode, on this podcast, and we're not dating anymore.
Oh, you guys aren't dating?
No. And yeah,
Damn.
so right, and I'm starting to think there's a healthy gossip curse. Like, so now it's like if I talk about it or bring it on,
You're gonna blame the podcast.
I'll just bring. That's why.
I
that's why you're my co-host. You keep me in check. He keeps me in check.
Podcasting, it's fun. It is. I mean, it's fun. It's problematic. We have to deal with the consequences of podcasting. I had a podcast with an ex. We dated and we did the podcast while we were dating, and then we broke up. And I was like, "Are we still gonna do this podcast?" And she was like, "Nah." And
What was it called?
You should have planned better. Ironic, right? Yeah, played right into that one. But I've talked I also one time. Oh boy, here's a fun personal life story. Many years ago dated a girl, didn't work out, and she later, like a couple weeks after we broke up, she matched with a friend of mine on a dating app. They were messaging, and she saw that he knew me. Because of, I think it was Hinge or Tinder or something where they show like mutual friends. And so she was like, all right, how do you know Jay? And he was like, I don't like know him. He was lying. He like knew me. We were friends. But he was like, I know he's another comic. I just know him because he's another comic. That's probably our Facebook friends. Okay. And then they went out on a date, and he was immediately like, hey, just a heads up for you. I know Jay better than I let on about. And she was very upset about it. And she ended their date and then like hit me up and got me to go hang out with her. And she had been drinking, and she tried to basically like flip it and be like, "Hey, I'm so sorry I went out with your friend, and I just had no idea that like I wouldn't want you to do the same thing." I was like, "Oh no, he told me that was going to happen. Like, it's not that big a deal."
Yeah, I thought you don't have to apologize unless you fuck him.
Right. Well, then she got mad at that I was like not very taken aback that she was going out with a friend of mine.
I don't like you. Why would I get mad?
Yeah. Well,
We're not together.
It was we weren't together. I was like, we made this perfectly. You're the one who broke up with me. Anyway,
she broke up with you?
She broke up with me.
This girl.
Because I was smoking weed.
You are not self-aware.
Yeah.
No self-awareness.
But she... so then...
Should have planned that better.
Exactly. But then we went out, and I basically like left because I was like, this is really weird and uncomfortable. I don't think this is going to go anywhere. I'm going to go. And then
she gave me a headache.
She and I, my buddy my friend who went out on a date with her, we did a podcast of his podcast and talked about it. And she, I didn't think was even still like involved in any of our lives. But then she saw the episode because she had like blocked me on everything as far as I knew, but she didn't block me on everything. And she saw this, and then she tried to file a cease and desist. And tried to sue both of us, and we were both like, "Yeah, you don't have a case to stand on."
Was this a comic?
She didn't. No.
Who has money for that?
A rich gal. That's who. A rich gal working in
take
real
her
estate.
back. Take her back.
Listen, she was a great sugar mama for a little bit. She was real nice, but she was a very private person, and she didn't want to be involved in any way in any sort of public life.
Can I ask you what she did?
She was a real estate agent.
Okay.
Of some variety. That's as vague as it'll be. In case she still doesn't have me blocked, and she checks in and decides to send another cease and desist.
That's a question I have for both of you guys. So like, if you are dating someone and they cheat on you, do you ever like contact the other person?
The person who they cheated with?
Yeah. What's your take on that? Me neither.
That's none of my business. That's
Alex
between
says
you
no.
Well, I've been cheated on. I never contacted that person.
Okay. I think it's a case by case scenario. When I had Jen on the podcast, in her circumstance, basically she was dating somebody who would come inside her and like would tell her all these lies and be like, "Oh, I like you," like eventually we could start. Oh my God, I realized I don't think she said that on this podcast, girl. I'm so sorry. That's way TMI, and I definitely said her name. And girl, I'm so sorry. Ooh.
Get ready to do some serious editing, Alex.
We don't edit really much.
Woo!
Like, not really.
Now you do.
But,
Now you're throwing some bleeps.
well, but he was a piece of shit. I honestly don't think she'd give a fuck if I said it, but just in case. And so then it turns out that this son of a bitch had a fiance at home.
See, yeah, no, that's different.
Yeah.
I was in a situation, the closest I've been in a situation like that, like the time I was actively like cheated on was when I was in high school, and I didn't find out about it until years later. So that doesn't really apply. The closest I've been to it as an adult, I was dating somebody who was dating. We were both open that we were like seeing other people. I was definitely not as much because I really liked her, and I was like trying to focus on her, and she was dating somebody else who lived in another city. This person moved to LA, and she was basically like, "Oh, now I have to choose." And then, but I knew that it was happening, but I didn't know the extent to which it was still happening. And then I would like hear like we'd be on the phone, and then she would like we would hang up, but she would say like hi to the other guy before she hung up the phone, and I was like, "Oh, this is like the twisting of the knife." And then it all ended. Like I had to pull out of it because I saw where it was going, and I saw the level of juggling that she was doing to try and keep us both going, and I was like, I don't want to be involved in this. I will get hurt if I continue to try and pursue this.
Right. And that actually is kind of what happened in my situation, is that I was definitely not being honest enough, because I was saying I don't want a relationship, but I wasn't making it clear enough that I was like, hey, eventually dating other people is a part of not being in a relationship. And the really sad part about it is when you feel like you're best friends with somebody, and that you just really get along in that capacity. And that's where I feel like it's sad.
I think a lot of the time at the beginning of a relationship, you're like, yeah, like if you want to see other, like you establish these loose rules at the beginning, and you never have the conversation. Like it's a like. There's always that like I'm not seeing anyone, but I would kind of thing, where it's like if you would just say you are.
Yeah.
You know what
Well,
I mean?
that's ultimately what happened after that relationship. I mean, you know what? My timelines are maybe a little bit fucked up because I don't remember if I dated somebody else like for a while after that. But at the start of my current one, we were dating, but I was also very open. I was like, listen, I'm not in a place right now where I want to be in a relationship. I'm actively dating other people. Just a heads up for you. And she was like, cool, thanks for being up front. And that was going on for a couple months. And then she hit a point where she was like, hey, I'm starting to really like fall for you. I can't date you if you're going to date other people still. And I was like, all right, well, this has been really nice. I guess we have to break it off.
Right.
But then she hit me up. She saw me. She watched me do a roast battle one night on Periscope, and she hit me up again and was like, that was really great. And I was like, I was in a place where I was feeling like I was doing too much juggling. Like I had 5 separate girls come see me and in person at that roast battle that night.
Ooh,
and I was like having to
sloppy.
bob and weave and dodge. It was very sloppy.
Oh.
And I felt really shitty.
How many years ago was this?
2 years ago. This was like right before my
Early
current
sobriety.
girlfriend and I.
Early sobriety.
Yeah, it was like
You're like hanging out in the comic.
physically
patio.
sober, not emotionally sober.
Right.
And I literally like at one point, one of the girls.
That'll make you relapse.
I sent one of the girls. I managed to get her to go home somehow. One of the girls I deflected, and she wound up hooking up with another comic. And that continued for a while. So good. I'm a bit of a matchmaker on that front. Have
one of my hoes, bro.
Yeah, that's how you do it. And then she messaged me, and then we started talking again. It was like a month or 2 weeks or a month later, maybe. And then I was like, you know what? I still got feelings. and I will sign up to be monogamous. And so we worked it out. And now 2.5 years later, we
Fuck
live
yeah.
together.
Now
We
you
got a
live
cat. And we got
That's
They
a
got
figuring
they
it
got a
out.
joint
Fought.
bank account
You
on the
fought
horizon.
for your
Woo!
love.
Yeah, it's all good.
Okay.
It's nice things.
Okay. Yeah, and that's literally like exactly how I would say it's, just lifestyle choices. If I'm not ready for one thing and the other person is, or if I'm making bad decisions on my end and you don't agree with them, then that's when sometimes people just have to go their separate ways. And
Yeah.
it's that is what it is. And Alex, you called this just like you always do. He called it out the psychopath. And this one, he said he said the saddest thing about your relationship is once it's over, you guys can't be friends, and that's big facts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a friend, Alex, I love him to death, and I still think the world of him, and I wish him the best, obviously, but
I mean,
the friends thing, we're not just gonna hang out like we used to. And be
Well,
like,
yeah.
Let's go watch a movie, because it's always gonna be just.
you know what, though? I will
memories.
say this. It's nice that you in your mind and like you're thinking from a standpoint of, oh, I wish we could be friends, because that maybe you will be down the line whenever the wounds of the
think-
relationship have healed.
I think we will.
I think I don't understand how to do that.
And
That's something I've never. I always wind up at the end of a relationship not wanting to be friends with the person.
Well, I'm not a very good friend in general, in the sense that I'm not gonna call him and be like, "Hey, bro, it's been a couple years. You want to go have some dinner or like hang out?" Like I don't like. I'm not gonna reach out like that. But when I say friend,
Yeah, but you guys run in similar circles. You'll cross paths again. This game is small.
Right.
This world
but
is
I
very
think we're
small.
already to the point where well, for me, I know I am. I know he's probably still like not.
It's very interesting
healed,
because
but
you just mentioned that you're not the kind of person you don't have that capability of like transitioning into,
Yeah.
which is funny because I'm thinking about it and it's like as I think about it, I really only have one of my exes that I ever kind of had a friendship with, and I feel like that was definitely probably her doing. You know what I mean? Like I feel like she was probably a better engineer of that than I was.
That's same
And
on my end.
that's so are you normally the broken up with or the breaker upper with her?
I'm normally the broken up with.
So maybe that's part of it too, is that the person who walks away sometimes has kind of a more whole look at the picture, and I mean,
Right. That could be it. I think the closest on my end that I've been to feeling like I'm friends with anyone is just a sense of being cordial. And that's my last girlfriend.
and that's what I mean too by saying
Right.
friends.
I think as long as you can be cordial with the person, that's fine. If you wind up in a situation where you guys are like cool and hanging out, more power to you. I know there
Yeah,
are
we
several exes who can do that, but I just
again, we
don't fucking get it.
We talked about it, is that he can't have another person in his life and be your friend. There's just
Right.
no way in hell a girl will ever be comfortable.
No, and I
with
wouldn't
him
be cool
being
with
your
it either.
friend.
Yeah, and I wouldn't expect any of my future people
Right.
to be cool with it.
I think as long as you don't have kids with somebody, then you don't have an obligation to be
right.
a friend,
Cordial or a friend.
You can be.
or-
I think being cordial is just like good practice, especially if it's somebody you're in the same circles with, which I have a lot of experience on that front. I saw.
fucked around the workplace.
Oh, I've done a lot of workplace fucking
the old
around.
comedy trough.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
I know. I'm learning a lot about you this
I've gone
episode.
all
You're-
deep in that.
You're
trough.
wild.
Yeah, I mean, I saw one. I see exes of mine, most weeks. Like I saw one do a friends and family spot on potluck last night. I'm just
Nice.
like, all right, she's here.
Okay.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
God, I wish I knew more like people like, oh, that's the one that he was talking about.
My favorite. Have you ever heard Jesselnick talk about? I think it was Nikki Glazer or Aim. It was one of those where like, what do you think about that? And his response was, I think everything I touch turns to gold.
Oh shit!
So yeah, just be happy for the successes of everything you touch turns to gold.
Yeah, we had a good
Damn.
time while we dated.
That's
I never
awesome.
look back at this point. It's pointless to look back in anger or like sadness or regret about any of the relationships I've been in. But there's definitely no reason for me to look back and be like, oh, I wish I was still in that relationship.
Yeah.
And I wish I was still hanging out with that person a lot.
And I want to make it very clear that in my situation, I was the bad guy. I was the bad guy.
I've-
Definitely the bad guy.
I've been that's
I'm the piece of shit. I was trying to have my cake and eat it too.
talking to
I'm
somebody
the
who
bad
gets
guy.
dumped all the time. So I'm also the bad guy in a lot of relationships.
Okay.
I'm with you there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you date women with self-respect. That's cool.
Yeah.
Because he made it sound like, oh, they break up with me, you know, like no, you do wrong to get them to break up with you.
Right.
So you're kind of like the breaker up with in a very sneaky.
Well, I was like, I say this in a sobriety sense as well, but before I got sober was very much like an entitled doormat, and I would basically I wanted everything, but wouldn't allow myself to have anything. I
Okay.
didn't feel like I deserved it.
Okay.
So that colored the way I acted in my first couple of serious relationships. And then after that, and I started to recognize that pattern of behavior, that regularization colored the way I handled myself in my next couple of serious relationships. And so there's a shift.
Very grown up.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm a grown-ass dude.
Dude, this went by so fast. It's already over.
Are we already over?
It's already over.
Man,
I'll have you back soon, man.
Please
we
do.
got because this was so much fun.
I gotta check back in, see how things are going.
Yeah, exactly. It's the healthy gospel, baby. Guys, Alex, Jay, Comedy Pop-Up, listen, like, subscribe, all that great stuff. It went by so fast. I hope you enjoyed this one as much as I did. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.